how should we voice our opinions to theists?
I think it's a difficult subject because in the very nature of religion, it's kind of extremely averse to criticism in any form. So you can't even say the remotest criticism about religion without people getting offended by it. So yeah, it's a difficult problem.
Kind of reminded actually of the time when I still went to church with my parents, but I kind of I think I just stopped. And I think when people ask me, "Are you religious?" I remember saying, "No, I'm afraid not." Like I'm afraid not. That was it. Yeah, I was brave enough to say that I wasn't, but I had to kind of appreciate that. Oh, it's a good thing, but I'm not part of it. There's a
Mm.
no.
Well, it's like the other week, I was in the city and I was approached by Harry Krishna trying to sort of sell me books, and I said, I'm not interested in religion, and she was like, it's not a religion, and I was like, I'm an atheist, and I just walked off. It's sort of like, why should she come up to me in the street trying to sell me these books that's sort of a donation, a generous donation, but it has to be £12 or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know.
Just is that Hindu, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a form of Hinduism. They worship Krishna.
No, is that not a religion?
It is a religion, but they're in the street trying to promote it to young people. They're not going to say it's a religion.
No, it's not hip.
No. So, yeah, I think when you're in a situation where you've got people kind of encroaching upon society with these doctrines and beliefs, it needs the very fact that atheism sort of exists is because there are people that can see the corruptness of it, and they sort of think, well, this should not be tolerated. And that's the very reason atheism exists, save from the sort of philosophical side of questions of whether God is real or not as well.
Yeah, you can apply it to other occasions as well, of just general kind of a superstition that kind of offends your mind. Like the other day, with 2 occasions recently, somebody mentioned about palm reading. They said their mother palm readed or their auntie palm readed, and it's really interesting how I don't believe in it, but they do these things, and it's just so amazing how they get right down to the last detail. And I don't want to say I don't know whether to say that's
I think you should show them Darren Brown explaining how you do all that sort of divination and talking to spirits and things. Sort of explain how it is done by various linguistic tricks or just trickery of the mind and the way you ask questions.
And probabilities or coincidences. People like when I spoke to the other day, said that she felt like a sudden jab in the stomach, and there was nobody there. And then she found out the next day she was pregnant, which that sounds like, oh, it's a really big coincidence. But then imagine all the things that could have happened. Her glass could have fallen off her table, and then her mother cut her foot on a bit of glass or something the same day, at the same time. That's something that could happen. Or maybe you're banging your knee and your cousin in Spain breaks his leg at the same time. There's all these little things that could happen.
Yeah, but you sort of notice these coincidences, but it's like when you want to believe something, you notice it more. Say I decide there's something really special about the number 3. If I've got that in my mind, I'm going to notice everything to do with the number 3 that I see. So if I see 3 stones on the floor, oh, it's a number 3. The number 3 is a really big thing in the world. It's everywhere, but that's only because I've selected in my mind to tune myself in to the number 3. It's sort of seeking patterns where there isn't any.
Jim Carrey film 21, isn't it? 23.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's good trying to get paranoid about 23 being a boy.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, so there's coincidences are easy to find, and it's easy to get caught up in. I think the first situation when it happened, when somebody mentioned the palms, I said that's I was kind of nodded and said, "Oh, that's interesting." And then the second time, I said, I don't like offending people, but I think my opinion is important. It's important to voice your opinion, and I think that anyone who believes that is really silly, idea, and I don't want to. I don't feel content with it.
But yeah,
what's your opinion on it?
it is difficult to criticise someone, in a general sense about anything. It's kind of hard to say to someone, "You really smell today," or it's difficult to criticise people. So
especially for
and people get offended by criticism. So I don't think you can ever criticise religion without offending people.
Yeah.
But I think it's a case of criticising it without being needlessly offensive, like saying all Christians are twats.
Yeah.
That's a needless criticism, you could say. You have to acknowledge that not all Christians are twats. That's just a generalisation and a weak argument. So you need to demonstrate the criticisms of religion in a sort of reasoned way.
Yeah.
But that does require showing it up to be ridiculous on some fronts, because it is.
Yeah, and I can imagine that being quite offensive, because somebody believing something really it's like me believing that Hayley really loves me, my partner, and then somebody coming along and saying she doesn't actually, you realise she doesn't actually love you. That's really considered offensive, isn't it? Would be considered offensive.
She's got a cat roaming near the camera. I was just worried it's going to knock it off. But yeah, I think without being needlessly offensive, you should criticise religion. But then again, religion does teach a lot of ridiculous things, and pointing out ridiculous things does sound like you're just, saying the opponent's argument is ridiculous is a kind of way of just dismissing the whole thing. But the thing is, even to the most reasoned and sort of unbiased person, they are ridiculous, and that's a simple fact. So it's hard to get across to religion without seeming like you're being sort of a dick, basically.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot with my mother as well, who's into. She's not really. I think she used to be kind of more not too much church and stuff, but she don't go to church anymore. So I don't think she's that bothered. But I think she does get a little bit offended if I talk about like at the book I was reading, Christopher Hitchens. She noticed it when I was in the car and said, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "God is not great." And she was like, kind of moved on from the conversation, so she's still. I think she's part of that generation.
Well, sorry.
Part of that generation, like she was brought up by those brought up in the war. So it's that kind of faith has always been an important part, and I think she's kind of part of that, which is it's offensive, but she knows for a fact it's not true.
Yeah, well, I think that's a case of what Daniel Dennett calls belief in belief. People believe in the belief of Christianity. They believe it's good and it's kind of got virtues.
Yeah.
And even if they don't really believe the core doctrines, they sort of believe that it's good, so you shouldn't sort of criticise it.
It's a good thing.
So they have got a whole wealth of sort of agnostics and people that aren't overly critical of religion but aren't religious themselves. They've got them defending them as well. But I think, I don't advocate that people can believe what they want, essentially. But I think it's the rule should be, as long as it's not encroaching on the freedom of other people or causing harm to people. But religion sort of has a tendency to do just that, which is, if they could believe what they wanted to believe and keep themselves to themselves, it would be fine, and we could have a nice secular society where everyone could prosper together in freedom. But they always want to impose themselves on society. And I think it's part of the doctrine, like part of the being a Christian is spreading the gospel. And it's kind of, these religious memes are kind of built perfectly to thrive in the minds of their hosts as it sort of spread.
If you had any practical advice, or think you'd to somebody who wanted to bring kind of his opinion into conversations a bit more about his atheism and.
Well, I don't think I'd feel the need to raise it. It depends on the situation. I think, like, if someone told a child Jesus is real, he's the Son of God, it's not really your position. Unless it's your own child, you can't go to someone else's child. Actually, Jesus might not have been the Son of God.
Yeah,
You can't say that to someone else's kid. So it's hard to know.
I think you. No, I think you could. You can. They'd
The
be
person
angry.
would be really
Yeah,
pissed.
they're really pissed off, but they'd be. I think you could. Imagine if you did that. So like, actually, God isn't real. I don't believe a word he says. You know, that would stick in that boy's mind, wouldn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
And I mean, like Hitchens and Dawkins both had a chapter in a book saying, "Is religion child abuse or child abuse? Is it religion? Is it child abuse?" Yeah, there's they both kind of, you know, in that case, if it is child abuse, like you'd probably step in if you saw someone like beating their child, wouldn't you?
Mm.
So it's I think in a way, no one's got the right, no one's got the right to beat their child, and no one's got the right to fill its head with ridiculous ideas.
Yeah, that is true. And it's difficult to combat though, because there is a taboo against teaching children something that their parents don't want their children to learn. It's like children are the possession of the parents, and we need to get over that psychology, you know, that our children are ours and they do what we want. They're actually an individual person who deserves the freedom to do what they want, not what their parents want them to do. But we need a sort of revolution in it's you know, ingrained in our heads that our children are our property.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that people were allowed to hit their children, so is it? So I think there's probably
It's an advance, definitely.
Yeah, no, the idea of being able to hit your child kind of does, but not be able to hit an average man in the street. Kind of shows there was obviously a clear distinction between, as my child, I can do what I want.
Yeah, I think there is to an extent that's a valid thing. You know, if you don't want your child to look at pornography, then you're within your rights to sort of argue against that. There is cases, if it's sort of your child, you can't harm. You know, you're protected over it, aren't you?
Yeah.
But it's a really difficult subject, I think. It's like how to educate children to be able to be an individual. And I think that's what we'll talk about in the next video. So we'll stop